Remove Hamas and release all the remaining hostages or face a large-scale evacuation and military operation. That ultimatum for the Palestinians from Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz, who warns Operation Strength and Sword is about to crush Hamas once and for all and seize large areas of Gaza to expand Israel's security zone. Well, joining us with more is Jewish News Syndicate Editor-in-Chief Jonathan Tobin. Jonathan, it sounds like the IDF means serious business this time with Operation Strength and Sword. So won't this risk the lives of the remaining hostages? Many of their family members, I'm sure, are concerned about this operation.
It's possible that that is true. This is a very difficult dilemma for Israel. Because it does, there is strong support within Israel, and the intention of the Israeli government as well is to do everything it can to save and get those hostages out. On the other hand, Hamas has no real intention of seriously negotiating their release without ensuring their survival as being in power in Gaza. That which presents an ongoing threat of more terrorism, more October 7th style attacks on Israel. And that just means more Israelis being put in harm's way, as well as, quite frankly, the West in general, because Hamas, it views all of the West, the United States too, as their enemies.
Well, it doesn't seem like the Palestinians want Hamas to remain in power. We saw massive protests recently against Hamas, and then we learned that 22-year-old Uday Nasser el-Rabi, who participated in those protests, was kidnapped and beaten, tortured for hours with clubs and metal rods, and stabbed to death with screwdrivers. So what more can you tell us about that, and how are the Palestinians reacting to this atrocity committed by Hamas against one of their own?
Well, it's not clear exactly where Palestinian public opinion stands right now. Hamas has retained the support of most of the people under its control, and as well as in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, because a generation of Palestinians has been indoctrinated into the idea that their only purpose is to wage war against Israel and against Israel's existence. But their suffering in Gaza is immense. And it's clear that many Palestinians in Gaza would like not to be be living in these conditions. They want the war to end. Hamas cannot allow the war to end on any terms, but with them winning, with them holding on to hostages, with them remaining in power. That's incompatible with Israeli security and, quite frankly, with the safety of Palestinians as well. It's not clear how many Palestinians really are taking to the streets or willing to resist Hamas. But the one thing we know for sure is that Hamas will suppress any dissent, any attempt to overthrow it from within with everything that it's got, because that's how totalitarian regimes work. That's how Islamist regimes work. That's how their patrons in Iran, the Ayatollahs, the people who run the tyrannical regime in Iran, that's how they retain power.
Well, let's talk about Iran. President Trump's making headlines in a war of words with Iran. He says there will be bombing of Iran if the Ayatollah doesn't negotiate a nuclear deal. And then the Ayatollah responded, calling for the destruction of Israel, threatening to deliver a strong blow against the U.S. So are these just wishful thinkings on the part of weakened Iran, or do they have the capability to do real harm here?
Well, one should never underestimate the ability of the world's leading state sponsor of terror to inflict some pain on the rest of the world. They're veterans at that, but they are much weakened. Their allies in their auxiliaries in Lebanon, Hezbollah, have been much weakened. The regime in Syria, which was their ally, has been taken out. The Houthis in Yemen, although they're still firing missiles, they're under fire from the West and from Israel. They're in not a strong position. Moreover, they no longer have a weak government in the United States, in Washington, that seeks to appease them. President Trump has offered Iran an exit ramp, basically saying, if you negotiate a deal with us to get rid of your nuclear program, which is what, quite frankly, Barack Obama should have done back in 2015, 10 years ago, instead of appeasing Iran, then, President Trump has shown himself willing to make some sort of a deal that would allow the Ayatollahs to remain in power. as long as they give up their nuclear weapons and stop being a threat to the region. That's not a price they appear willing to pay at this moment. Times have changed. They are much weakened, and it's time for them to take that into account. And if they don't, it will go hard on them.
Well, we keep hearing about sleeper cells, Iranian terrorists inside the U.S. So how concerned should we be about that?
Well, we should never not be concerned. I don't know how real that threat is. I have to hope that our intelligence services in the United States are focused on that and that they are prepared. Too often, our intelligence services have been focused on other things. Quite frankly, if they do something like that, they should expect the worst from the United States. So I think, I think the Iranians, despite their bluster, they understand they're dealing with, as Vice President JD Vance says, a new sheriff in town. I would imagine they're more likely to back down rather than to challenge the United States, now led by President Trump.
Okay, peace through strength. As always, Jonathan Tobin, Jewish News Syndicate, thank you for joining us and providing those insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you.